I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Some great stories here today. Well, now, there's some pretty sad ones, by the way. And this one actually confuses me a little bit because I'm intrigued. A visitor to the Mercy University Hospital committed a crime that was described by the judge as particularly mean. Now, does that indicate that it was very serious or just a little bit mean?
Well, I'll tell you, I think sometimes when something is so below the belt, there are just no words left except for mean. So
Yeah,
that's the
well,
only way
it's a good
the
word,
judge
isn't
could
it? Yeah.
describe it in court.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was mean. So there's a woman from Cork, Simon Community. She pleaded guilty to this theft. It was in Cork District Court that she pled guilty, along with four other thefts. But it was noted by Judge Olin Kelleher that Lenihan had 14 previous convictions for theft. But this one kind of took the biscuit, really, to be honest, because
Right, okay.
she'd reached a particularly low ebb, and she actually stole from a woman on a bed, on a trolley
Okay.
in a hospital.
Oh,
so
wow.
you can see where the judge was coming from now. So I'm not sure. It doesn't say if she was a patient or whether it was whether she's been an opportunist. What
Yeah.
am I saying? So on that date, Gardaí were attending the emergency medicine department of Mercy University Hospital in relation to a separate incident when it was brought to their attention that a theft had occurred. So the allegation was that it occurred in the A&E unit cubicle where a mobile phone was taken from the hand of a woman on a trolley bed.
Oh,
so it
no.
wasn't even on the nightstand. It was just taken from her hand. So this woman was identified as a suspect from CCTV by Gardaí, and they patrolled and located her. So that was on May 4th, and the phone was valued at €225. But I think in this case, it was more so the principle of it that really
Oh, it wouldn't have mattered if you
impacted
stole a
people.
jelly bean from her, taking it from a patient's hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's you just feel so vulnerable. Can you imagine how vulnerable the
Yeah.
victim felt? They were already on a trolley, and then somebody comes over and takes a phone out of your hand. So that's a very bizarre crime altogether. And
So what was the
must say,
sentence? What was the sentence they got?
She got 8 months, I think. But let me double check that there, because there was a few other. She had 31 previous convictions.
for
So
God's
that was
sake.
including 14 for theft. And there was another recent one that I felt was quote unquote mean. She was in a restaurant and she actually paid for her food. And when the waitress's back was turned, she stole the tip jar.
Oh, no. This
Again,
person has no
that only had-
scruples.
Yeah, apparently there was only €10 on it. Now, in her defence, her solicitor said that she was falling into addiction, which it just really goes to show the dehumanizing quality of addiction, doesn't it? What it can do to
I don't
a
buy
person
all
when they're
of
just
that.
surviving, and it's terrible. No, I'm not saying that
Yeah.
in an empathetic way. I just mean that sometimes it just seems to turn people into monsters, doesn't
Oh, it does,
Because
yeah.
that is a very inhumane thing to do.
See, I don't buy, all this
but-
mitigating circumstances. Oh, Your Honour, at the time the person was an alcoholic, or at the time the person had been homeless, or they'd lost their job, or they were on drugs, or they weren't themselves. I when it comes to sentencing, and the judge says, well, there's mitigating circumstances, I don't believe that. You commit a crime, you commit a crime. I don't care what your state of mind at the time is. I really don't. You've committed a crime. The victim doesn't, have to take into consideration being a victim because of their state of mind at the time. You know what I mean? They're just the victim.
And there was something particularly invasive about that crime. You talk about it's similar to when people have their homes broken into two.
Of course,
and they spend the rest of their lives living in this crime scene because they can't get over it. I just can't imagine being in that situation. Can you, where you're lying on first of all, I've never been on a hospital trolley, but to be in a hospital trolley and then have someone walk over and take your phone, the patient must have thought, oh my gosh, what what
That
just
just happens, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, another story, a psychotherapist has spoken about seeing children in need of professional help after being benched multiple times and suffering intense criticism from coaches. Now, explain this to me because I'm a little bit confused by this.
Yeah, would you believe Dr. Susan Lawher, she co-founded Mental Health Initiative State of Mind Ireland with her
Okay.
brother, the late Dr. Martin Lawler. So she explained that there are some former underage players as old as in their 40s. So they're enlisting her help due to the scarring effects of sport-related incidents. So this could be abuse from their coaches, and I'm just talking verbal abuse and being benched a number of times and just feeling that sense of rejection. It stayed with them. So she deals with children and adults of all ages, and what she's basically telling people to be mindful of is she's telling people really they need to recognize the difference between constructive criticism and negative reinforcement. So she was saying that for young people, it should be a case that it's just for fun and that there is a bit of discipline involved. But
I understand that, but there's a bit of a weird thing going on in the world. Yeah, but there's a bit of a weird thing going on in the world at the moment that we're afraid to tell children that they've lost. Like I know in Britain, they've stopped sports days, in schools. And there's a bit of that going on over here and a bit of the kind of everyone's a winner situation that you're almost afraid to tell a child that they failed. And, they're going to have failures in life. They have to deal with losing every now and again. And I think children nowadays, don't get me wrong, I'm all for the protection of children in any way we possibly can. But we can't wrap them up in cotton wool either. And this idea that, okay, you've been benched, maybe you weren't good. You know what I mean? Maybe you were off form for a season or something like that, and the coach decides to bench you. That should be allowed to happen, shouldn't it?
It should be, but I think that children should get the chance to play. There are some children who aren't getting the chance to play at all. And she's saying that when kids are knocked back so many times, we're ultimately missing out on potential future sports stars. So it's not just being benched either. I suppose it's a combination of the two. When you get a coach that's particularly intense, we've all met one.
Met them.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember coaches from when I was young, and I just hindsight can be quite grim, can't it? When you're thinking about the way they deal with children. So I suppose I really believe we shouldn't be sacrificing our children in the quest for perfection. Maybe
there's a case of some kids. I wasn't sporty. The most common word said to me by sports coaches, if that's what you want to call them, they were school teachers for hurling and GAD, everything else. And when I was in primary school, was Boylan, you're useless. That was the most common thing said to me because I'll be honest with you, I was useless. I'm not a sporty person. I'm more into radio and stuff like that. I don't like getting my hands and my feet dirty. So, and maybe there's a case that sometimes if a kid is playing soccer and he's not doing well and he gets benched quite a lot, it might teach him, well, I'm not good at soccer. Maybe I'll move on from this and I'll do GAA instead, or do a bit of hurling or basketball or golf or something I'm better at, rather than sticking around and the coach pretending I'm good by just giving me a game every now and again. We could be doing them a favour. Maybe I'm wrong, by the way. I could be completely wrong on that. But maybe we're doing them a favour by telling them just straight off the bat, okay, useless, like.
I think sometimes, I really believe that sometimes there's no such thing as right and wrong in some cases. Sometimes there's a bit of both.
Yeah, no, I do agree, Sarah. There can be a bit of both. But sometimes, I don't know, maybe it's the wrong thing to encourage a child to do something that they're not particularly good at, because you're going to waste a year of their life when they could go off and be doing something else they might thrive in. Do you know what I mean?
Like when my mum made me go play golf.
Oh, okay.
It was terrible.
This sounds really bad of me, and fierce sexist probably as well. No, actually, it's not even sexist, because it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. But I just can't envisage you with a golf stick in your hand, unless it's for all the wrong reasons.
And you're calling it a golf stick, so that means you're worse at golf than me.
It's a golf club, isn't it? It is. Now, speaking of things, firefighters are facing mounting pressure as more people resort to setting bonfires to get rid of their household rubbish. Now, I have to say, I was only talking about this the other day, and I was saying, that we see all this kind of rubbish, and like we've 3 bins, and you have your normal stuff, your recyclables, and then your foodies, right? Which, by the way, I hate the foodie bin in the house, the smell of it. Right? Anyway, that's beside the point. And I said, in the old days, my mother would just chuck it all in the fire. Should be grand. Keep us all warm in the winter. You know what I mean? Now, I know Eamon Ryan wouldn't be too pleased with that in the Green Party, but as long as they're not, burning out natural habitats and everything else, where are they burning this stuff?
Do you want to know what they're burning, first of all?
Well, I'd like to know what they're burning.
So, washing machines, fridges, and they're doing it in the middle of greenways, apparently. So this is according to Second Officer at Cork City Fire Brigade, Victor Shine. He said that crews attended recent calls with dangerous bonfires that included, as I said, fridge freezers, washing machines, everything and anything to fuel the blaze. So sometimes it's a case of somebody lighting a bonfire and someone saying, "Oh, well, I need to get rid of my washing machine, so maybe they'll chuck it in there." So bonfire night, by the way, isn't until June 23rd. Do you celebrate that in Dublin? Is that a Cork thing?
No, they celebrate it in Dublin too. Yeah. Well, when I say celebrate, I don't agree with these bonfires in the middle of housing estates, to be honest with you. But in saying that, who really thinks a washing machine burns? Do you know what I mean? Does somebody actually think that a washing machine burns? Or a fridge? Maybe they're curious.
I'm not sure, but this is what's happening. And as I said, bonfire night isn't until June 23rd, but there are a few people who figure this works well. Maybe I'll do it other days of the year too.
See, I initially, when I read the story, I thought it was just a few people just out their back gardens burning a bit of rubbish. You know what I mean?
Microwaves are another one.
Microwaves, okay, right.
Yeah.
They don't burn either, by the way, microwaves. They just
they don't. They found out that the hard way, I assume, these people. But for firefighters in Cork City Fire Brigade, it's been particularly difficult in recent years because they mentioned that it can get quite nasty at these events. So there's the potential of being stoned, or when I say stoned, having stones thrown at them, not actually stoned, or assaulted at these calls, which has
But that's what happens in Dublin here too. Only recently they're going back during the year in Cherry Orchard and Clondalkin when the guards and the local council, the firefighters went to put out bonfires for Halloween, which got out of control. Some of the local youths, as they call them, decided they would throw stones at the police cars and the fire brigade. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because my ex-husband was a firefighter, and I remember him having stories like that all the time. And he was in Limerick, so it must just be happening everywhere. But it's this burning of freezers and white goods and everything else. It's also particularly harmful to people just living nearby who are suffering from respiratory issues. You can imagine that
would be quite toxic, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would be toxic.
Yeah. So it's not very it's not very considerate. So I know Cork City Council, a lot of the time they organise events in lieu of bonfires. So maybe we could look up the website and see if there's anything this year, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it's not just that. I mean, we're looking at greens that are such an amazing amenity to have, and they're
destroyed. With these
bonfires.
bald patches of black on them. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Also, by the way, a Cork man who was in and out of prison for 20 years has finally discovered the way to change and turn his life around. Is he gone straight?
For the last 6 months anyway, it's all so far so good. So John O'Driscoll, he's 42. He ran 30 miles in a time of 1 hour and 57 minutes. That was in the Cork City Marathon. And it just goes to show that your life can start at any time, because he's saying that he got help and things are going well. And he just had enough of it all. 20 years drinking and drugging, those were his words. And he said he was just wasting his life. He said he felt fed up and overweight. And he saw the prison counsellor 3 times in the 3 months he was recently in prison, and that helped a lot. So
Yeah.
he started working himself, and he found faith in prison, and that also helped him since his release from custody. But he said he was talking about how the drinking and drugs had ruined his life and all his relationships, bar his partner. He said it wasn't only him that had enough. His family and his kids, they'd all had enough of it. So he got help from Cork Alliance. They're a great organisation for prisoners post-release. So he started running with his best mate, and that best mate, as he calls him here, he became like a sponsor, and it's kind of like an unofficial therapy, really.
Right. Well, I'm glad he has managed to go straight, and hopefully he'll stay on the straight and narrow and stay out of prison, and hopefully stay out of trouble as well. And well done to him, by the way, particularly if he's going to do it and raise a bit of money for charity as well in the meantime. Also, by the way...
that was the story, sorry. That was a story from the opinion line in Cork 96 FM. I forgot to credit them there.
That's
so,
okay.
Yeah,
that's been my old friend PJ Coogan. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know all about. You've been reading up about Cork.
I've spoken to PJ many a times. Me and PJ are okay. We're all right. We're good buds.
I thought I was your first Cork friend, but go on there. Yeah.
No, I kind of knew PJ before that, but I mean, it doesn't. You've kind of overtaken him, so that's okay. I talked to you more than I talked to him. Anyway, Munster cricket players were forced to run for cover after their game was hijacked by a swarm of... Now, it wasn't just like a few bees. It was 20,000. Did somebody count them? 20,000 honeybees. We used to call them shuggies, by the way. Honeybees. Shuggies.
Was that a thing, or was that just you?
My mother. There was wasps. There was bumblers, which are the kind of black and yellowy lads. And then there was honeybees, which are like, we used to call them shuggies, which are this kind of brownish, kind of yellowy bees, aren't they?
Okay, so I call them shuggies in the article for,
Okay.
So Munster cricket players, they were forced to take cover after a swarm of 20,000 honeybees,
shuggies,
or as many calls them, shuggies, descended on and delayed their game in Cork. So the Munster Reds were taking on the Northern Knights at Cork County Cricket Club when the insects made a beeline, that was
good pun. That was a nice pun there.
It wasn't mine.
Sarah, you're up there in the big league now with those puns.
So they made a beeline for the pitch, and play was halted for over an hour. But wait till you hear about Cork's beekeeper Mauro Diaz. He was called in basically to save the day and get the situation under control. And he got all the bees, and he picked them up with his bare hands. What a man! No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you how he managed it. No protective gear or anything.
Did he blow that smoky stuff at them first to kind of doze them, because they're all, that they normally blow that smoky stuff at them first?
Doesn't say anything about smoky stuff, or that's your name for all the names. Yeah,
smoky stuff on the shuggies. Did he put smoky stuff on the shuggies?
So he said that when honeybees are in swarm mode, they don't go around stinging people, so we don't need to be afraid. So that's why he was able to handle them with his bare hands.
Right.
And he said he's used to them. He knows how to treat them. So they weren't in attacking mode. They were just trying to protect the queen and all stick together. So the last thing they want to do is kill themselves, because when they sting, that's what happens. They die. They die themselves. But I didn't know they knew that themselves. They're very clever, aren't they, bees?
It's like,
like
what suicide bombers.
Yeah, in a way they are, aren't they? I'm going to be struck down by lightning or something there.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that's what they did in the war, wasn't it? Suicide bombers.
Yeah, it was.
Bees are like that if they sting you, because once they sting you, that's it, game up. Although I don't know about wasps. Do wasps die when they sting you? Hate them.
I hope they die after they sting you, because that would be good enough for them. Because I remember being young and picking up a wasp nest and ending up in A&E because it was September and they stung me all over.
Here's the thing, Sarah. I did the same when I was young. I was 12 or 13 with a mate of mine, Brian, and we went down to the local field and we found a wasp's nest. And we thought, in all our wisdom at 12 or 13 years of age, with a lighter and some paper in our hands, it would be a good idea to set fire to it and see what happened. So I got stung 7 times as I ran across the field with the wasps chasing me. And he got stung a few times too, on the neck and the face and everywhere else. But you said, when you picked up a hive, so you picked up their home. Like, if I picked up your home.
I didn't know what I was picking up. I didn't know what I was picking up. And I picked it up. You set them on fire. That's much worse.
Oh,
you can't go around setting wasps.
I know, I shouldn't. And it was a very evil thing to do as a child. But then again, I was a child, so I didn't understand how stupid I was. But in saying that, I'm not too sure whether the wasps die or not. Because normally when they sting you, they say stuck to you. You're supposed to be careful because if a wasp stings you, you can see him. He's still there. He's stuck into your skin. And they say if you pull him off, like if you lift him off, you squeeze him, which squeezes more of the venom into you. So you're supposed to flick it with your finger.
Yeah, I can't remember what I did that day. But Joe, I do remember going into A&E that day. I don't know. Did you go to hospital with all? It's not a competition, but I was obviously much worse. But
my mother just told me to shut up crying, stop crying. Like.
I know, I was with my granny, and that was my saving grace. But when I went to A&E that day and someone over, they took the wind out of my sails because they said, "Oh, you're the 8th child to come into us with wasp stings today, and sure, you're grand."
I'm wondering why you went to hospital with a bee sting.
I had bee stings everywhere, and it looked like my head had swelled up.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Yeah, they thought I'd like some weird allergic reaction, but yeah, I was a bit precious, wasn't I? Yeah, I was 11.
Well, no. I suppose if somebody was concerned because you were swelling up, I mean, normally with a bee sting, you wouldn't swell up that much. But some people can be allergic to them, and it can be very dangerous. But generally speaking, they're reasonably harmless, unless you got a lot of them. But what I want to know, just very quickly before you finish, who counted them? Because it says in the piece, written by a brilliant Cork journalist, it says in the piece there was 20,000 of these bees. So did somebody go, or it was just like, oh, it looks like 20,000?
But maybe they usually, maybe an average of, I don't know. Why don't you ask Sally Gorman, who wrote the article?
Yeah.
Because I'm curious, how did they know it was 20,000? Maybe is that the average kind of number they normally go around
swarm in? Yeah, maybe that's what they swarm in 20,000s. So maybe when they all go out, they go, lads, we've only got 19,500. Can you drum up another 500 out of the nest there and bring them with us? Lovely talking to you, Sarah. Once again, you're very entertaining apart from anything else, with some wonderful news stories. And we shall talk to you again next Monday night. Thank you very much indeed, Sarah.
Okay, thank you.